How hard did you push it till I black out? Yes. Numerous times, yes.
What's happening, MuniciPals? This is Big C. No Ashton this week, but we do have a couple special guests with us. First off, we've got my man JP, Joel, Suck My Paw on Instagram. Very, very good buddy of the podcast and a municipal in his own right. We also have the owner, creator, mastermind behind Matchstick Golf, Dane Delgado. How you doing, fellas?
Doing well.
Yeah, doing well,
great.
Chris.
Thanks for having us out.
Yeah, glad you guys both could come on. We're going to put JP on a little side burner for a quick minute. And Dane, so Matchstick Golf, one of our new sponsors and title sponsor for the podcast. We are very excited to have you guys join on. Give us a little info. How did the entire company, the idea, everything come about?
Yeah, thanks for having me on, man. I really appreciate it. Obviously, I think MuniciPals doing really great things, not just with the podcast, but everything you guys put together. It's perfect. I think our partnership works out great just because, chill dudes doing good stuff in golf. And I love that. And that kind of that's my whole vibe too. The company is custom golf ball, marker designer. And it really came out of everybody wants to have something cool. You got Ryan Lynn Golf with, all the Muni kids stuff with their cool head covers. Everybody's, getting the cool towels and the cool polos, and everybody wants to have something personal out there on the course. And ball markers for me was always something special because, one, it's something that's relatively cheap. You could buy them. You can kind of collect them. I was already an enamel collector. If you look over to my, on the right side of my desk here, I have two big things with, enamel pins. My grandfather's an enamel collector. So it's kind of like a family thing. And it's just like a fun little thing to have out on the course. Another little extra added thing that wasn't super expensive, because we all know golf can be expensive the more you rack it up and the more you deck out your bag or whatever. So I'd always had a couple cool ones, and my favorite was actually this one I had from Jones, which is a company here in Portland, Jones Sports Company. They make great bags, and it was the shuttlecock, right, from badminton. And of course, another name for that is birdie, which is perfect. I love that little play. That was funny. I liked the design. I also really liked just how it functionally worked in the course. It was the right thickness. It was the right weight in my hand. For me, I didn't really want something that was, thin as a quarter or just one from, some round one from a course, even though I do collect those. I went on a couple golf trips this year, and I've just every single time I buy them, I'm buying ball markers everywhere. But, I wanted something that's speaks to me. And so I love that one. And it was also, there's a lot of really thick ones out there, really heavy. People use, poker chips or, CNC milled ones. And the problem I kept having was those just kind of looked to my eye a little bit big on a green, or also in my pocket. I had a couple of the big ones, a couple of the expensive ones for a little while, trying those out. And I was just terrified of losing them. Terrified they were going to bounce out of my pocket. The one time I rode a cart that year, because it's bouncing up and down and it's really heavy. It's got a lot of inertia. So I just wanted something that was thin and playable. And also, if your playing partner mishits a putt or something, it's going to roll it over the top of it. It's not going to bounce off of it or something. He's not going to be mad. And this Jones one was perfect. And then what happened? I lost it. I lost it on my home course, walking between 17 and 18 on Glenny West here in Portland. Who knows what happened? I had missed a putt on 17, so maybe I was frustrated, didn't put my hand in my pocket. I lose it. And it's so cool. Nobody turns it into the clubhouse, right? It's too cool to do that. It's definitely on the green somewhere. Somebody has that. So I'm looking for a ball marker. I test them out. I can't find it. And I think, I love to do art. I was an artist as a kid. I really moved into a video medium as I got older. But I've always liked to draw and do stuff. And I had ideas that I thought would be cool. And not just that would be a cool thing on the green. But like the birdie, it would be a joke or a little inside thing, a little nod to something in golf. I had some ideas. So I thought, how hard could it be to draw some up and get those made and start a little company? And so that really started maybe a couple of years ago. Like that seed was planted. And now, probably, let's see here, it's September now. So probably around January or February, I really started drawing them in earnest and putting it together, writing a business plan, seeing what I could do, testing names, all the stuff you do to make a small little business that I mean, essentially at this point in time, Magic is run out of my house. It's not a big company. It's just me. And I had a couple good ideas that I thought would work well. I found a way to manufacture them. I thought I had a great idea to package them. The name Matchstick is really a play itself off of, if you look at our logo, it's obviously it's a golf flag. So a matchstick could refer to two things. It's however kind of you want to interpret it. One, if you're playing in match play, what wins you matches? And it's your putter. And a marker, I think, isn't just mark your ball, but also a lot of us use those to line up your putts. I certainly do. And so it's part of this whole process of winning a match, of playing competitive golf, or playing competitive golf just in your regular foursome, right? And so I thought that really played well. And the same thing with the flag is a match stick. You're playing for this one goal. The hole and the stick on the green is your goal to win that match. And that's really important. So I thought those two things kind of blended together. I thought it was a great name. And I love the idea of having it be something that comes in a really cool package. I mean, our packages are actual match boxes that I take all the matches out when I get them and throw them away, because I can't ship matches across the country or put them in an airplane. So we have a little sticker on a piece of foam in there that shows you what the matches that used to be in there look like. And I think it's really cool packaging. And I just thought there was something missing between these really super high-end CNC milled markers that are $75 or $100 or something to buy, or even more so if you have to buy them on eBay secondhand or something. And these sort of, fun ones or whatever that are made of enamel, but maybe the presentation isn't as fun, or the designs aren't as well thought out, or, sometimes you see stuff and you just think, well, I could maybe do that a little bit better, or I just have ideas that are cool for that. And that's really what it came down to. The core tenet of Matchstick is that I would love it if our customers like our product, but every single one is something that I want to play. It's a design that I love as a person, as me, Dane. And if people want to play them, that's cool. That's great. Some of them have been really popular. Some of them not so much. I still think every design we have is really cool. I still think they're really cool. So,
yeah, that's where I would interject, because so when we came on, the first thing you did was give me kind of a complete pack of every single one that you have made to this point. The one thing I've always loved about them, and I know JP is being an ambassador for you as well, would say the size of them is no larger than a coin. The thickness is about the half thickness of your standard quarter. And it's kind of the perfect, piece to have. And for any of us that are Sugarloaf fans, Buck Club fans, Malvin fans, any of those kind of more boutique style, golf, this is kind of what you want to pull out of your Jones bag, and you want to pull out of your Mackenzie bag. It goes along with those trends as well. So we're really excited to have you on and have Matchstick partnered with us and MuniciPals. And keep an eye out, guys. There might be a collab coming between MuniciPals and Dane. Get something there. So we'll see what happens there. But big thing we want to talk about tonight is going to be Portland golf scene, and a little fun thing that we've been doing for about 2 weeks now. We're going into our third week of it, actually on my 34th birthday for Muni Madness out at Wildwood. So, pretty exciting. It's been a good time. Both of you guys have been out for both of the Muni Madnesses so far. What has been your takeaways here? We'll start out with JP on this.
Man, first of all, again, Chris, thanks so much for having me on. I am I'm such a fan of Muni Madness. It was like, obviously I'm newer to the golf scene in general, but especially obviously Portland golf and everything that's been just developing in the last year, especially through COVID and all the craziness that we've experienced as a community. It's been really rad to just kind of see how things have developed. But with Muni Madness, it's like it jumped on the scene really quick, and it kind of delivers this different experience. You got 5, 6, 7 dudes all teeing off at the same time. It's just a mad dash to get a birdie is what it feels like. And just seeing the train of carts rolling down the hill and just the energy. It's a different take on golf because it can also, and I'm sure a lot of you guys can relate to this, like it can be stressful. Golf can have some layers of stress or even some anxiety, especially for newer golfers or guys that don't feel like they're all that good. And being able to be in an environment that's carefree and offers you opportunities to hit shots, but also opportunities to get some cash from your buddies and just have a good time in a relaxed, situation. It's special. And I think it adds something, an element to, especially like a local golf scene, that you just wouldn't normally get. And I think it's super inclusive and inviting for people. And for me, that's what's been the draw, is just like the energy is fun. The vibes are good. You got music blaring. It's just a good time. So.
Yeah, I have to really echo that part about sometimes I think we get in these rhythms with golf about what it is for you. You're grinding, you're trying to get better, you're trying to play in tournaments, you're trying to play your friends, be better, whatever your goal is, lower your handicap, as the season ends. This really, when you invited me out, Chris, I thought this could be cool, but I also don't really know because it's so disparate from what we're used to as golfers that I don't know what it's going to be like. Is it going to be a complete madness? Am I going to know people? Are they going to be friendly? Is it going to be super competitive? What's it going to be like? And if you listeners are listening now, want to understand what this is like, it's 30 or 40 people, all in carts, music blaring. Chris gives you a bunch of instructions. They're really easy to follow. Basically, birdies are the only thing that matters. You can mess with people. You can't stand in their line or you can't touch them, but you can stand in their line. You can yell at them to try to miss their birdie putt. There's pools for what? You get hole in one. There's skins, and there's also whoever gets. There's KP prizes. And then also whoever gets a birdie, if they're alone in that hole, they get $1 from everybody there. It's super fun. And here's the thing that I love. That's actually, JP, time back into my regular golf game. No practice swings. And I don't take practice swings normally either. Wedges. I take practice swings with wedges a little bit. But normally I don't take practice swings. But I will stand over the ball. But if I don't have a reason to take a practice swing or think about it, and there's 40 dudes just standing there being like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
I'm not thinking about it either. I'm just standing there. I'm just going, I'm hitting this basically as fast as I can. I mean, without rushing. Yeah, I'm hitting a golf shot. Here we go. Yep. And I'm kicking ass at these things. I haven't won anything because we got some ringers with putting out here lately. I'm hoping next Monday for Chris's birthday that maybe I win some cash finally. But I've had some opportunities for those birdie putts. But man, it is so much more fun than I even thought it was going to be. It's just like it's a complete reset. Well, I'm still experiencing golf, but it's a complete reset. And man, it's a blast. I can't wait to just like hit up every single one of these things.
It just like sets you free.
Totally. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's my main goal with bringing events like that to, Greater Portland, and also soon to be brought to the Bay Area as well when we start launching that in the spring. We're just trying to figure out a little bit of details out there with courses between Jack and Ashton. So, guys, anybody out in the Bay Area, keep an eye out for that. But with Muni Madness, it's just to get people together in a loose environment that's not going to, put any stress or any, hindrance on people of any ability to come out and play. There's no hole over 150 yards. Most holes are going to be between 130 and 80. And it's just anybody that can swing a golf club and make a little bit of contact can actually get lucky out there too, which I think is the coolest part about it. And the one thing that was cool to see in the last one is some people bringing out their girlfriends, significant others and stuff on the trip as well, because that's always fun. the one time experience that I had out at Coos when we did Muni Madness out there, a lot of people had their girlfriends collecting the cash when they were winning the whip outs, which I thought was a great way of doing it too. So, it's a family environment. Even if you wanted to bring your kids out and your kids wanted to hang out in the cart, anything like that, it's completely open. There is no hindrance for people to make their way out there. So we're going to be doing this through the end of fall. September 27th is going to be the last time that we're going to do it, just because of daylight. We got to do it at the end of a day on Mondays. So we're going to start it again in spring. Hopefully it'll be out at Wildwood, where we'll be dealing with the details with that in the interim. But no matter what, I'm going to be keeping Muni Madness going and keeping the community together here in Portland. What's up, Dane?
Maybe you've already covered this on this podcast, but I just haven't missed it. Can you explain how this came about and how the rules came about specifically? Because obviously getting people out for an event like this is kind of common, but how it works and then how the rules sort of cultivate the vibe for it is, I think, really integral. And I'd be curious to know how you get it, because I love it. It's great.
I can't take any credit for this. So basically an impromptu golf trip. I came across this. We talked about this in a past podcast, but in our Coos podcast. But the cool thing was, me and Ashton were planning on doing a trip up I-5 when me and my wife moved back to Portland about 3.5-4 months ago. Our trip basically was planned, ready to go, complete. We had everything to go. And then I started getting in a conversation through DMs with Andre, who runs Coos Golf Club, which JP actually had the pleasure of going out there and playing some golf with him and his son.
Love that guy.
Great individual. And so the more we talked about it, the more he basically, kept adding more and more things to the itinerary of what we were going to have planned. And so he had a dinner set up with his brother Paulo at the putting course out at Bandon when we played a couple matches out there. So he met up with us a day ahead of time, drove all the way out there, took us out to dinner, bought us dinner. Next day had us come out to Coos and play around. And then that night we had Muni Madness, and me and Ashton had no clue what Muni Madness was. So he tried to explain it a little bit to us, and we got the gist. So basically the rules were created by a caddy that's at Bandon Dunes. They started doing this in Southern California originally. He moved up to Bandon, started caddying in Bandon, and they brought it to Coos and started doing it regularly at Coos with a bunch of Bandon caddies. So when we played at Coos, it was 95% Bandon caddies. I think the only people outside of Bandon caddies were, there's an ex-police officer and, Andre, his brother, me, and Ashton. So everybody else worked at Bandon. And that's actually where we met Chris. And you can listen to the podcast we did with Chris, one of the female caddies out at Bandon. And so he explained to us, Muni Madness was a par 3 course set up on a full-length golf course that basically had skins, hole-in-one pot, and something called whip outs. Whip outs were basically anybody that got a single birdie on a hole, everybody paid them $1. If anybody else tied them with a birdie, it all cancels out. You move to the next hole, and you play all as one. So you set up a tee box. It's wide enough where 4 to 5 people can hit at a time. And it sounded crazy to me. We went out and played. It was the best fucking time I've ever had in my life. After we finished Muni Madness, we headed up to hole 7 and played a 860-yard hole to the 18th green. I mean, he just had the best stuff set up. And so once I found out about Muni Madness, I had to bring it into my, repertoire and kind of add it to the events that I had, a grand plan for. So with, putting Muni Madness in here in Pacific Northwest and having the gracious host of Ryan and Wildwood with that, we've then added a match play bracket, which we got 32 people to join in on within a less than 48-hour time frame. So fast. And then we also have our Modern Golden Age Invitational that's going to be coming up next April, which you two both will be graciously invited to as well. And hopefully you guys can make it out for that. So, it's just something that the MuniciPals have been talking about and something that we've wanted to implement to the communities that we are in. And when we do further travels and the more that MuniciPals grow, I would love to plan Muni Madnesses in our trip repertoire as well. So when we go and do our trip in Colorado, which we're hoping to get on the books here soon, and, a few of these other trips that we do, I would love to find a course and maybe a PGA professional that might work at a public course that wants to help me organize it and run it and get it going, because I think it's just a fun thing that is something that I think I would love to have tied to the MuniciPals for here on out.
Yeah, it's really great, man. We're before this podcast started, we were talking about where are we playing this weekend and stuff, and of course I would look forward to a regular full round of 18 holes of golf, but I'm really looking forward to Monday too.
Yeah.
It's always a good time, and again, I'm very appreciative of Wildwood and them being so generous and such a hospitable place to do it. So.
Yep.
Really stoked on that. But one thing I wanted to talk to you guys about, and something that I think I struggled with a little bit when I moved here, and what I kind of found out a little bit about, through COVID, when me and my wife moved back to Portland for a short time, and I was playing 5-6 rounds a day, a week,
a day.
I was actually almost playing 36 a day, for like 4 days a week. It was absurd. And so the Portland golf scene, and I think it's one thing that I've noticed is in the last year and a half, there's a lot of people joining in, and it's becoming a more expansive community. But before I left for the Bay Area, it was almost non-existent out here. It was a very tough scene, kind of hard to find. There was little niches everywhere, but I don't think I necessarily saw a community all on its own. So, JP, Dane, how long have you lived in Portland, the greater Portland area, your whole life?
Not my whole. I moved to Charlotte and Seattle for various years, but for the most part, I've lived here or in the Valley, within 40 minutes of Portland. Yep.
And then, JP, you've lived here in Oregon City area.
Yep. Almost 30 years. So,
I mean, you guys have grown up here. How long have you both been playing golf?
I played off and on a little bit as a kid. But I tell people I've been playing golf for coming up on 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm the same. I played it as a kid, played 9 holes, hey, make a big putting swing with this 9-iron or whatever. Yeah. And randomly play without understanding what I was doing in high school and then again in college. I really picked it up again in 2016, but I didn't take a lesson until, again, 3 years ago, something like that. So actually understanding what I'm doing, 3 or 4 years, really, strongly.
And I think that's both of you guys saying that you haven't been in the golf scene more than 3 or 4 years at this point. I think that's a big telling sign of what the golf scene has become here in Portland. And there's a giant youth movement I've noticed here in Portland, because it kind of was an old man, stuffy, crusty ass old man golf type situation out here. And you still see it. And we've talked about it in other podcasts where, I've roasted Heron Lakes for their starters. Those guys, and it's notorious. I mean, you guys are shaking your heads and smiling and laughing at me, but you guys can even say it.
No, we
no.
know. Yep. No, we know. Yeah.
And so the starters at Heron Lakes are just crusty ass old men that have nothing better to do but like yell at fucking people all day for no fucking reason. And so, you know, that's something I can't stand, but I think people are not taking it, and we're figuring out the places that we fit in.
Right.
And so I myself don't give Heron Lakes a lot of my money or time just for that aspect. And I choose to play, you know, and some people think they're a little old and crusty as well at Rose City, but to be honest, I like their cut and dry mentality out there. You go in, you pay your shit, they don't want to talk and have a conversation, and you get your fucking cart and you go. It's just like, it's just cut and dry. There's nothing about it, and the guys are good to go there.
Which is fine. That is how it should
yeah.
be. You're there to make the trains run on time, not be some weird hall monitor, which is what a starter is, because they don't really have any power. I paid $60 to be here. You can't tell me not to go, especially because it's 4:25. My tea time's not till 4:30. So stop freaking out, man. You know, which is exactly what happened to Heron Lakes when we played there on Sunday. Are you with this group? Yeah. Is it our tea time yet? No, but you guys start soon. Good. That's why I'm standing right next to you.
Yeah, I've had many issues, and we've talked about it in past podcasts. So anybody that wants to hear my takes on Heron Lakes can definitely do that.
I would interject something though. Like, I do think that there's, while I would agree, there is especially in Portland, there has kind of been an old stuffy kind of energy in the golf scene. I'm finding that I think, and I always just try to give people the benefit of the doubt, but I feel like, you know, you got to imagine like some of these old stuffy dudes who've been in the scene for 30 years out here, who now over the last 2 years have seen more golf rounds than ever played on any of their courses in the history of their course, because of how much golf has blown up in the last 2 years. And I think there's something to be said about that. Like, you know, if in all of our own industries, you know, whether we, you know, work in golf or not, there's always going to be those people that come into your industry, they don't know what the heck they're doing, and they act like maybe they do, or they can keep up when they really can't. And that's where I think public golf needs people like MuniciPals. They need approachable brands like Matchstick. They need opportunities to be able to at least get involved to some extent, to then kind of learn and understand the game and learn where their place is, whether that's at the local muni or they end up getting a country club membership or whatever. Finding our own place, and like you were alluding to that a little bit ago, is, I think that's, for me, especially as being a newer golfer, I try to give those guys, you know, I just try not to like mess with them too hard, because I understand that their jobs are probably a little bit difficult with the influx of new golfers that don't know the rules and don't know the regulations. But also just because like I'm a new golfer myself, I would consider myself to be anyways. And I want to make sure that I'm like, you know, at least putting my best foot forward. So it can kind of go both ways. But this Portland golf scene and what you were saying about the youth movement, facts.
Yeah, and there's definitely just to I think that's a good point to make, JP, because think about how we've golfed twice this year with, you know, two guys, and then two other guys got paired up with us that were brand new COVID golfers, which I can't believe. Oh my God, you're actually guys who started during COVID. This is crazy. And they were good, right? You know, they got the bug. They're bit. They're practicing all the time. They're shooting 100. It's like, you've been playing golf for 9 months and you haven't gone to lessons. You're shooting 100. That's really good, man. Congratulations. But I've also been hit into as many times, way more times this year. I mean, I played Wildwood 2 Sundays ago. I got hit into on the first tee. We were standing in the landing zone we got hit into. And so there probably is adding to this hassle of guys who don't know what to do. And there are some rules in golf. Some stuff is stuff that needs to be put away with. But some rules in golf are there for a reason, to keep people safe, or to keep the course running, or to make it so that people aren't playing 6-hour rounds. And so obviously there's a give and take there. So, you know, they're there for a reason. They have a reason to exist. So you're probably right, JP. They probably have had a harder time this year. Maybe they do deserve a little bit more of the doubt. But yeah, I think the scene is generally shifting to be more fun, and things like Muni Madness is definitely contributing to that.
Yeah, so my whole thing though, and with the old man usher or starter or whatever you would like to call them, my thing is I think we need to do a better job, especially in probably on all aspects, on ushering these new golfers into the world, because I've seen it for a guy that's played pretty consistently, maybe dropped off a few years here and there through his life, where I've played since I was 9, going to be 34 here in a few days. You know, I've seen the ebbs and flows of the golf industry and people coming in, falling off, coming back, and then, you know, falling out of love with it again. And it's because of the lack of openness and the lack of wanting to usher these people in and teach them the proper ways instead of just yelling at them for them not knowing. There's no book that is given to somebody when they decide to play golf on the rules and etiquette of golf. And there's a lot of fucking rules and etiquette in golf, like a fucking lot of them. Totally. And so it's one of those things where, you know, you really have to, you know, figure that out and kind of, I think it's on all levels. And I think that's one thing we're trying to do, you know, as the podcast, is try to help introduce that. Where I've always said to any listener, if they hit us up, send us a DM or anything like that, I'd be the first one to send them, you know, etiquette, you know, list with a ball marker from you guys, a divot tool, you know, a whole little package, a starter pack to kind of get you going and learning the proper ways of approaching golf and getting out there and playing a full 18, playing a proper 9. So those are just things I think just need to be done better, instead of, you know, yelling at people and, you know, pissing them off and making people feel unwelcome.
Yeah,
I think
not creating that hostile environment, right? I mean, they're literally the starter, right? They're the first thing you see as you start. That's not really fun when you're sitting there and it's, you know, you walk up and the guy's like, you know, you're up. It's like, all right, yeah, I got it. I think I have to give a little bit of a shout out here, because one of my best buds, Joe Simons, part of a regular foursome. He's a great golfer, been golfing here in the Portland area, you know, since he was 6-7 years old. And he's my like little guru for these rules, this etiquette things, where especially that became more important when I started keeping a real handicap a year and a half ago or something, where, can I move this ball? Is it, you know, are we playing win rules? Is there a local rule for this thing? How do I do this? Or even more things that are more minutia, like when we want to play ready golf, you know, can I be doing this on the green while you're doing that kind of thing? Yes, and he'll say he's really gracious about it. Yes, when this is happening. No, when this is happening. But that's because he's my friend and he's part of my foursome, and he's there as an interpersonal thing to tell me, right? What we need to do is hopefully foster these new people that are coming in as in a communal way, to be able to tell them these things, here's how it works, and also make it not scary. Because I think that does drive people away when they don't realize what they did, or simply are mad at them and some old guy, well, I don't go back there. And if that keeps happening to you, you know, 3-4 tracks, you know, it's not like this isn't Florida. There's not that many golf courses here, you know, that you can get to that are reasonable to drive to after work, that are within your price range, that you like the course design, that your friend like, but you like too. All those things narrows it down. Most of us probably play, I mean, there aren't, you know, crazy people, probably play 5-6 tracks maybe. And there are so many you could play, but all those things narrow it down. And if you're getting at half of those places, guys being jerks to you, or people in the clubhouse being jerks to you, or whatever it is, because you're not tucked in, man, or whatever, or you're late, or they perceive you as being late because you're not early, or whatever it is, then you're slipping like, well, the only place I can really golf is this one place, and maybe they fall out of love with it. You know, maybe the dopamine hit of hitting a perfect 5-iron isn't enough to go back to kind of being yelled at. So I love that, and again, I think this podcast, you know, making Muni Madness, that's also like a time to to be able to talk about those things with new golfers. I think new golfers are showing up to this being like, hey, I can play here, and they need to be able to be talked to and be able to ask questions like, hey, if I was doing this and this, what would you do? Because I'm actually in that category. We're all going to play in a tournament here at the end of the month, and I've never played tournament golf before. So luckily, even though it's all, handicapped and all that kind of stuff, we're going to be playing together. It's not like flighted out with people in my, so I can be like, okay, in tournament rules for real, what do I do here? Because here's how I normally, even though I've been trying to play by every single rule in the book to keep my handicap as perfect as possible or as honest as possible, I'm still going to ask you guys because you guys know more than me. And we need to foster that going outward.
Let's, for example, right here, somebody that's been playing golf and played in different scenarios, there are certain, things that you're never going to come across. Have you ever come across a stake that's red or green with a red paint on top of it? Do you know what that means?
No.
So what those are protected hazards. So you cannot even enter in to look for your ball. Your ball enters in that area, it's gone. You're done. Drop automatically, because those are protected lands for either frogs, snakes, whatever the fucking animal is in that area. In rules like that are things that somebody that's been playing and has played across different areas that have different rules would know. But somebody that is experiencing that for the first time might have only played for 2 or 3 years. So let me explain this. For USGA, there's a rule book that is, I think, between 70 and 80 pages of rules of golf.
Of rules.
Of just
not
rules.
a thrilling read.
And it's like, so,
copy for that one.
Yeah, you go out and play baseball, you hit a ball far, and you run around the bases. If you're tagged in between bases, you're out. If someone catches it before it touches the ground, you're out. I mean, your simple rules there. Right. Golf is like, your ball could go outside the playing field, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's OB or it's a lost ball or it's unhittable. But it could be, depending on the 5 different stakes that are offered on the side of the golf course. And it's just like, what the fuck? Someone entering, the realm of golf would never know that. So those type of things are things I think, that's one thing I love. As a coach and as a guy that runs a municipal podcast, I absolutely love playing with new players. I've talked about it in the past. My homies Terrell and Nori and Jordan out at Dead Stock Coffee here in Portland. I love taking those dudes out. They just started learning how to play in the last 9 months. They struggle, making contact, but they are so intrigued on how to go about learning the game, how to get better. They're so appreciative when I take the time as a guy that hits a ball and it takes them 4 or 5 tries to get up to my first ball. They're so appreciative that I'm there to take the time to teach them and give them little hints and tricks and all of that, because there's unfortunately not a lot of people like that within the golf industry, and not a lot of under 6 handicaps that are going to take that time because they want to go out and play with their buddies that are at the same level as them. So I think there's just a lot of change that needs to happen in golf. People need to realize we need to usher these new golfers in, because if we lose them, the golf industry ain't gonna stick around. And I saw it in the Bay Area. We lost 20-30% of our courses between 2006 and 2012. And we've lost a bunch here in Portland since I've moved here. One of my favorite golf courses of all time is Broadmoor. Did either one of you guys get to play Broadmoor before it closed?
Yeah, I played it as a kid.
Yeah, no, I didn't get to, but my buddy Joe tells me all about it.
In my opinion, the best golf course that we had in Portland. It was the best set of greens, always manicured fairways. It crossed a river 6 times on the golf course, so you had to keep going back and forth over this river. The first hole was a downhill 304-yard par 4, and it was super drivable green. It was just super fun golf course. There's no driving range, tiny ass little putting green, nowhere to chip. But you just went out there, got out of your car, strapped your bag to a fucking golf cart, and you went out and played.
Pro shop.
I loved it.
And
And
classic Portland like public golf.
Totally. Yeah, very much so.
Like OG Portland public golf too, because it's changed. I mean, like, you know, you could drive up and down Gleason or whatever. You're gonna see some of the courses, but like Broadmoor, Claremont, obviously you mentioned it, Glendoveer, West and East, Eastmore, like those are like the staples. Rose City, those are all the staples of Portland golf. And even as a kid, like my dad golfed quite a bit especially when I was a little kid, you know, and he was at one of those spots probably 3 or 4 times a week, you know. And like the fact that now here we are 20, 30 years later, and we still do have quite a few of the great courses in like the Portland area, but like there is that question mark. Like I know that Oregon City Golf Club is one of the ones that I know is on the verge of shutting down. Sandalese is another one that's shutting down.
Greenlee. Yep, Greenlee, and I forget the one that is next to Sandalese.
You're thinking, no, Sandalese is the one next to Coal Creek.
Yeah. So Sandalese is the one that's going to be sold for them to keep Coal Creek. Yeah.
Yep.
Because they own both of those.
Yep.
Yeah, but there's just it's endless stories of these courses going up for sale or just disappearing or just kind of just getting dilapidated and not being able to be taken care of, and it's sad. But then I think we're also seeing those 8 to 10 core courses that we do have in the Portland area being heavily taken care of. You know, we've got our Forest Hills, in our Pumpkin Ridge, in our reserve, and like you just stated, all of those Muni tracks that we have with Glendoveer and, you know, Eastmoreland and all of those, and then of course Wildwood. And I've heard great things of what they've done with Gresham.
Yeah.
Some people have told me, because I played Gresham 2 or 3 years ago, and it was not a good track. It was in very, very poor shape. And our boy Eric, who is the neighborhood golf academy out here in Portland, he says he is absolutely in love with Gresham. He thinks it's one of the better tracks that most people don't give a lot of love with or to. So, you know, and then down by you, we've got, you know, Langdon and Stone Creek, which are always, you know, in impeccable shape as well. So it's just far and in between. It's good or bad in Portland.
Yeah.
We don't have just those like mediocre tracks. And to be honest, they're also getting a little bit more pricey.
Yep.
We were just having this conversation before this podcast. I played 13 holes or whatever with our buddy Stotts at Rose City, which is the oldest golf course in Portland. Maybe is the oldest golf course in Oregon, or is it just Portland? I forget.
So there's going to be like 50 golf courses claiming that, but
right,
it's one of the oldest in Portland because some of the private courses also claim that. I think Waverly also claims that.
I think Gearhart technically is the oldest.
Oh, that's true.
That's in Oregon.
That's like historical fact. I'm pretty sure, but you could.
I think you're right. But in any case, you know, Rose City, for people who aren't from here, it was an emergency airfield at times during various wars, and it's very interesting because it's run by the city. It has a very city feel to it. The greens were, like putting in molasses today. I love about 70% of it, and I absolutely want to burn 30% of it to the ground and never ever play it again. Which classic Muni course, sometimes holes just get you like, I don't want to play this hole ever again. It's just like it's got so much character. And it doesn't have a driving range. What it has is a hill that you can hit balls off of if you want to either not go get them or walk down there yourself. And it's just, but it's like it's being taken care of. But also, like, that place is way too expensive for what it is. Yeah. It's like, you know, primetime weekend rounds are $49 to $55, and it is a $38 track.
Are you serious? $50 out there now?
Dude,
Yeah.
dude, it's so-
Unbelievable.
we played 26 for a Twilight 9 on a Thursday. That's too expensive, dude. That's $18. I mean, literally, it's $17 at Glenny to do the same thing, and Glenny is way nicer than Rose
Well,
City.
even Killarney West, it's $17 to go anytime to play there for 9.
Right, they don't change the rate, which is it's interesting that they haven't. Maybe these places are just taking advantage of the fact that golf is just in crazy demand right now. Like they can sell at tee times whenever they want. But you're right, it's a really when you look at it as a whole, Chris, you're looking at things that don't quite add up. Because they're always talking about shutting down courses or paving over Eastmoreland to make housing or whatever, shutting down all the muni courses, and there's only going to be Pumpkin Ridge left or whatever. But then you're looking at it and you're like, you go to one of these places that does have a driving range, even on a Friday, and it's like jam packed. I remember all this last summer, people were waiting for the driving range at Glendoveer. Waiting, standing. I mean, sometimes 3 deep. Just like, are you playing? No, I just came here to practice, and I'm not going to go home because I'm already out of my car. I mean, it's crazy, but that disparity doesn't quite track, and it leads for a really interesting part of this subculture that we have going on here.
Yeah, and I think the big thing I've noticed in that too is you've seen some courses take that money and implement it into the course, and we have seen improvements, and I'll always be the first person to give Ryan props out at Wildwood. That course is always in pristine shape. It's in great shape, and he's told me personally that he's had to raise the rates, and some people that have been coming there for 30 years are upset because they're not getting out for $28, $30 to play fucking 18 holes. It's now 38, 47, depending on the time that you go. And the thing is, I would say they might have some of the best rolling greens in the entire, greater Portland area.
Yep.
And they don't roll crazy fast. They don't roll slow. They roll true, and the ball falls where it's supposed to. It's just a nice, surface to play on.
And they're consistent through every single hole.
Yeah, and it's consistent through every hole, which, again, we can't say too much about Rose City, and for them to charge that price is fucking astronomical. And, again, I think we all have a place in our heart for Rose City.
Right.
It's, like you said, one of the oldest tracks in Portland. It's got that charm, that feel. But we just talked with Tom Coyne about that charm and feel, and in the excuses people make for those type of tracks that are in your town. When we talked, again, Tom Coyne's pod is going to come on after this, so it's a little hint. You guys will get a little preview coming into that. But we talked with him a little bit about Sharp Park in San Francisco, and how the course, we just make fucking excuses for that track. Like, everybody that grew up in the area and played Sharp Park growing up, we make excuses for it because it's an Alistair McKenzie course. And if you know anything about golf course architecture, Alistair McKenzie is up there, if not on the Mount Rushmore of golf course architects. And if you guys don't know, he designed Augusta. He designed Pasatiempo. His work is across. He designed some of the best courses out in Australia on the sand belt. And so in the 50s, they basically had a flood that they lost about half of the holes. I think it was 40s or 50s. And they rebuilt those holes on the other side of the street. And over time, they've buried bunkers, and they've shrunk the greens, and they've changed all of these things and not kept this place up. It's ran by the Parks of San Francisco. And the Parks Department has put all this fucking money into TPC Harding Park, which you should play it if you're in the city, but you'll understand my take on it. It's one of the most boring tracks I've ever played in my entire life. It's just everything straightforward in front of you. There's nothing nothing exciting about it whatsoever. They put all this money in there because PGA comes in, they want to partner with them and create a championship style course in the city of San Francisco. So they've been putting all this money, and they've kind of left Lincoln and Sharp to the wayside. And I kind of feel like we kind of have that with Portland here. Kind of what I was wrapping back around to. And whereas Eastmoreland has raised their rates, Heron has raised their rates and charges absurd money for carts if you're going to ride. I mean, I think they're charging like $14 a fucking person. $17 a person. Yeah,
that is Seattle prices.
Yeah,
which is where I started playing golf again. That is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And Seattle, you're all like, I got the GPS up there and everything. Come on.
But all this money that they're charging, and we're not seeing this implemented into the courses. And so there are public tracks that are privately owned that are, Stone Creek is one of them. You're really seeing the money implemented out there. Langdon Farms has done incredible work on that golf course to get it to where it is. I'm not going to say Langdon is my absolute favorite designed track in Portland, but the conditions, in my opinion, are unmatched. They're up there with the Reserve and with Pumpkin on condition-wise out there. And you're seeing those privately owned tracks putting their money in that are publicly accessible but privately owned, where our city is raking in this fucking money and we're not seeing it put back into the parks and implementing them into the golf course.
Right. And it looks weird from a business perspective because that with this podcast or Matchstick or anything else you do, you're there trying to provide a service. You're trying to provide something that people love, that they connect with, that they're going to come back to. It doesn't matter what it is, whether it's playing another podcast or coming back, buying the new release of markers, or saying, look, I love how this golf course is put together. People are nice. The design is interesting. The greens were in great shape. I'm coming back here again. There's a reason people have home courses, right? Because that's the one, not just the one that's close to you. My home course is not the closest course to me. It's not the farthest one away. It's about medium distance, but it's because it's the one that all of those things add up for me. So, and that's just basic business and basic, running a golf course. It's really weird that we don't have that, especially when you have examples like Stone and Langdon or Pumpkin. Say, look, people come out here for a reason. There's a reason people pay that money. I mean, we were just at Muni Madness the other day, and one of the guys there, David, was saying, I love Langdon. I could play there year round. It drains even better than Stone Creek, which, if you're listening to this podcast, you're not from Oregon, the whole thing in Portland is that you could play Stone and, after 5 inches of rain and, you wouldn't have a plugged ball. That's the whole thing, And they said, Dave was saying, I love Langdon because it's even better than that. And there's a reason people get into these things and you can just run with them. So why are we not seeing it managed that way? I mean, it could just be the function of it being part of the park service or whatever, but it would be nice to have it.
I got a note on that. I know. So huge shout out to Stone Creek Golf Course. I mean, it is a county owned property, which I love to support public tracks that are privately owned because I just feel like, you're supporting a small business technically. But still for Stone Creek and I don't know the other ones off the top of my head that are all county owned, but managed by a private company. It's really about the management because Gordon Tolbert, he's one of the owners for the management company that runs Stone Creek. Also a very just close, like family figure in my life. And we've had like in-depth conversations because I don't know if either of you guys have ever been out to Eagles Landing.
Yeah.
It's a little par 3 track. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's terrible. The conditions are atrocious. Like it's just terrible. Like it's such a cool spot, like such a cool piece of property.
They got a little putt course. Oh my,
it's like so cool. They have so many cool little things, but it's just so poorly maintained that it was burnt out in March. Like March. It's like still raining and it's still burnt out. Like they're just like, they don't seed it or sand it or anything. Anyways, I went and played there with Gordon, just a casual little round, and he's a PGA pro too. And we're getting around there and the whole time he's just kind of telling me the backstory because Stone Creek was actually supposed to the management company was supposed to get the contract for Eagles Landing as well, but then there was just some politics involved, and it never ended up working out. But you look at Stone Creek, and Stone Creek is just this incredible place. And as they've grown, as the popularity for Stone Creek has developed, all they've done is just basically strong-armed the county into pouring it back into the course, because they've seen the benefit of like, hey, we take good care of this place. They do so many tournaments out there. They do so many events that bring in a lot of revenue for the county and also for the management company. And the ability to do that is based on the conditions of the golf course and the entire staff that you show up to experience, right? Like you can go to their driving range and you're going to hit off mats half the time, but then you'll also hit off grass half the time. You're going to go to their short game practice area, and it's nice. The bunkers are raked and the greens are rolling quick, just like the rest of the course. Like you go to their putting green and it's nice. Everything is in pristine condition. Like you just look at the cuts on the fairways, everything is nice. They just care about what they're doing, and they have a good staff and a good management team. And I think ultimately, like Dane, to your point, like that's what really makes it what it is. It's, do you actually care about your products? Do you care about what you're putting into it? Because if you don't, it's the proof is in the pudding, especially with a lot of these other courses.
Yep.
Can I point out something that may actually be a win coming up? That we may have to wait for this.
Yeah.
But so my pro is out at Lake Oswego Public Golf Course, which is a par 3,
You're in.
18 hole. Yeah, Myrig Morgan. Shout out to Myrig. It's a par 3, 18 hole course. It was built ages ago. It's built on the side of a hill in Lake Oswego, and it's so old. Actually, I have a family connection there. My father-in-law used to be a starter there when they used to live out there, and so he knows that course like back of his hand, that kind of thing. But when it was built, it wasn't built with any drainage, none. And the bottom of that course goes down a hill into a bowl, then the neighborhood on the other side of the road goes back up. And so half the hole, I mean, you play in August and plugged in like 6 inches of mud. It's insane. And they have done I played that track a million times. They do a really good job of trying to make it as nice as the grounds possibly can be. And they've been working for a few years to try to be able to bring some other redesign there. And the city of Lake Oswego has finally said yes. It went through all the the city council meetings and all that kind of stuff. Now they have, if you walk into the clubhouse there, it's going to be a community center with, I think, a pool and maybe tennis or something. And then they're changing it into a 9-hole executive course. So you'll be able to get out your driver. They're going to put in all this, drainage, thank God, and it's going to be different. And I'm hoping with the same type of, day-to-day management, the people who actually take care of it and understand it. Tom, the guy who runs it, hopefully he'll still be there and everything. I'm really excited for that. I think that's going to be a real win for Portland, because that could become a little track that's like, hey, do you want to drive out to Lake O real quick? It's 30 minutes away. Let's just get in a niner there. And that place already has kind of the stuff we were talking about earlier. I mean, there are people there who play there every day, from little old ladies to teenagers from the neighborhood who just walk around with like 4 clubs. It's like that place is literally, it's like a little, it's a city run thing for people of that city. And it's going to get really good really, really soon, I think. And I'm really excited for that. That's like a perfect hopefully a little capsule of an example that could go really well.
Yeah. And that's something I think we've talked about too, with Tron from No Laying Up, was just about the cities and municipalities getting involved in understanding what public golf is. Because I think that's a misunderstanding to a lot of people that might be involved in politics and in city planning, is they look at golf courses as kind of its own niche and kind of an elitist type thing where only a certain amount of people can be involved in there. And when you see like, kind of add the clubhouse as a community based hub that's going to have a pool and tennis and some added bonuses to include the rest of the community and involve them within the golf course, it allows them to kind of then also go, yeah, but we're also going to spend a whole shit ton of money and redo this and do an executive course. Thanks. And then kind of ask for, on the back end. And that's what you need to do, because people need to understand this is for the entire community. It's for everybody. Like, that's the one thing I love about Glendevere. They have a trail that walks around the entire, part of Glendevere, and it's built so well that it really doesn't interfere with the actual course. And so you can park on the backside, literally walk right onto the golf course, onto the trail on the east side, and just start walking the trail around the golf course. So Glendevere feels like it's incorporated into the community. And I think that's what I think Portland has done a fucking poor job of, is telling us and showing the communities like, yo, this is part of Parks and Rec. This is for everybody. Like, this is just as important as Tabor Park. This is just as important as the fucking Rose Garden. Like, you need to understand that.
Which I think that's actually I have some friends who moved over by Rose City, and that's one of their complaints. So, hey, we go to Glendevere and run around the track, but now we live on, I don't know, next to hole 14 or 15, and you can run through the middle of Rose City, but you can't run around it. And they're not golfers, but I am. I could map a running trail around that place in 2 seconds. There's already sort of a weird path that goes along that north end, that's like up on that hill. You could put a path there easily, or there's that whole unused fairway on the back 9 that isn't anything. Put something, you could totally, and make it, because that's the thing, is people get upset, especially when it is owned by the city. It's part of Parks and Rec, that it's not inclusive, even if it's not expensive, or you don't have to wear a collar, or you don't have to wear shoes. It still needs to be more inclusive to the community as we move forward in 2021 for these municipal tracks.
Well, and even so, where they have that, what we call the driving range at Rose City, that downhill, little area, you could put a stage at the bottom of that, and you could do concerts on Friday nights. I mean, you could put a little stage right on that back porch of the clubhouse, where everybody sits in those lounge chairs right by the green, and you could do, like, pop somebody up with a guitar and do some shows there. Just implement things into the fabric of what it already is as a golf course, and figure things out to include the community, because we can't lose these places. We want to see them thrive, and I think that's a hindrance of why we don't see them improve, because nobody in Portland is going to vote yes on a bill to spend $500,000 fucking dollars on renovating some of these courses if they think it's just going to be for this niche fucking community that plays golf.
Yes, totally. You're totally right. You're totally right. And again, especially here in Portland, where people, they may not be golfers, so they don't think it's valuable. And to a certain extent, they are right, because a place like Glendevere does have added value to the community, or Lake O. That's where the new community center is going to be. If it's part of the city and run by the city, and you're not planning to sell it off, or you're not planning to have it be like Stone and be like, okay, this is sort of like a semi, private club or whatever, or privately ran club, then make it part of the city. You got to go one direction or the other.
Yep.
And even Stone Creek, they've got a nice walking trail around there that there's people always walking around that walking trail. Like I've walked our dog around that trail countless times and spent a lot of time out there. And it draws you in, because it's not only a golf course, but it's a beautiful walk, and it's a beautiful piece of property. And there's so many properties that the freaking county and cities own. It's like, guys, what are we doing?
Well, that's the thing. People want to walk around a golf. Even people who aren't golfers, they want to walk around a golf course.
It's a beautiful property.
It's manicured. It's a park, right? It's a park.
Yes.
It's manicured park. It's like, even though you don't get to throw a frisbee in the middle of it, you still want to. What do most people do especially our age, do at a park anyways? They go for walks with their dogs. So, like, put a trail around it, man. Make it for more people.
Yep. I mean, and that's as simple as it is figure out ways to implement other things to allow access to anybody that are non-golfers onto these properties, if they're going to be operated and ran by the city or any municipality. It could be a county, a city, whatever. state ran. I don't care. It just needs to be implemented into the community. So,
Well, thinking about these two things together, I wonder if more people coming to be like on these courses are going to bring a fresh perspective, bring more support to these local courses, and say, hey, no, I think this is worth it. We got to do this, and also bring fresh ideas to their constituents, in the city or city councilors, whatever it is, and say, hey, actually, I started golfing last year. I never thought I'd be a golf person. It's really valuable for this reason. I think you should vote for this bill or allocate this money here and do that. Those two things may actually, work in some kind of harmony together.
no,
And everybody
absolutely.
knows a golfer.
Yeah.
Everybody knows a golfer.
Yeah, and I think it's just putting those two things together and really, expressing that to the community in a whole and having that understanding. Because like we've talked on the pod many times about how St. Andrews, one of the most famous golf courses of all times, closes on Sundays and people have picnics in the middle of the fairway. It's the most famous golf course in the entire world other than Augusta National, and people are fucking having picnics with their dogs in the middle of the fairway on Sundays because it's in the middle of the city and it's ran and operated by the city of St. Andrews. I mean, there's a trust that runs it, but it is implemented into the city and treated with its respect by the citizens of that city. So that's what I think is the issue with America in general, period, with any type of golf, is we just have this mindset of elitist and like elitism when it comes to golf in general. And once our generation and the implements of what we were talking about with this generation of younger golfers coming in, that's changing the mindset of that, coming out wearing fucking hoodies and basketball shorts and playing loud music and enjoying themselves and knowing it's a fucking game and not a elitist sport or endeavor that only a certain level of people can do. It's, I think those barriers will slowly get broken down and we'll start seeing those changes implemented, hopefully.
This podcast got me jacked up. When I'm done, I'm emailing my city councilor right now.
Hey, we got a lot of problems in Portland when it comes to that shit.
I think there's something to be said about that though. Like on a real note, Dane, like I think I don't feel like there's a lot of conversation, even on the golf course, about some of these places that we're playing, and about what, honestly, if a hungry and fired up enough group of golfers got together, what kind of changes that could be made. You know what I mean? Like these are all county and city dollars that all of us as golfers are paying by living in this city. So like we do have a say over what happens with these courses. We do have, a voice. And I think, I'm not sure, Chris, I would definitely, lean on you for this, but is there any sort of community of municipal golfers that are linked up to kind of take on some of these things or try to call for some changes or like actually have some sort of unified voice to see some change in their cities and at their, their local munis?
So that's the biggest issue, is the fucking old man golf that I talk about all the time, that I fucking hate, that needs to die and go away from this game. Those are the men running these courses that are on the board of trustees for these golf courses and aren't taking the proper, steps to start reaching out and making statements enough to the bigger bodies to kind of get those things implemented. Where if guys got onto the men's club and the board of directors and things like that at Rose City and at Eastmoreland and pushed those guys out and really pushed to implement a lot of these changes, and then also got together with civic leaders to try to get those changes implemented, we're not going to really see them. So I can say that's on me as well. I talk a big fucking game. I talk shit all the time about these courses not getting these implementations and these improvements and stuff. I'm not going out there joining these boards or doing anything. I'm getting on my fucking podcast, jumping on my soapbox, talking shit. So, it definitely starts with us. And I think at one point there might be a time in my life where I'm going to do that. You guys see the amount of effort I have put into kind of invigorate the youth community in golf here in Portland with the events and stuff that I'm doing out here and running the RGC of Portland, doing things on MuniciPals, and teaming up with guys like you guys to be able to do a lot of these fun things to really get the community invigorated. I think the next step is just figuring out, further in our lives, how, if we're going to be in this community forever, I think we need to, take a stand and step into some of these things and figure out what we can do at that level to kind of help out there. Cause I love these tracks. I love Eastmoreland. I love Rose City. I want to see them better. And Rose City has made a few steps. So if you have noticed, since you've been out there, some of the greens have been redone. There was some temporary stuff. They did hire Dan Hickson to come out there and redo the greens. The only issue I have is they're not keeping them to the standards of what they need to be after they've changed these. The greens he's done, I see the changes. I see the undulations. I see how much better they look, but they're still rolling fucking slow as shit. Like, I don't understand why they can't roll these greens or mow them more frequently, because, I mean, you go out there and they're rolling like 6s and 7s. They're it's so slow out there.
Dude, I have not played a track all year where my basic tempo for like my distance in my tempo was not enough to get my distance forward until today. Tonight I was playing Rose and it was like, oh my God, I have to hit this ball as opposed to letting my pendulum do the work. It was so annoying. But more seriously, I have to pick up on this because we may really be onto something here, because I know that there's one city councilor in specific that made a mention that got golfers up in arms here. It must have been before the pandemic, before everything sort of popped off and made, shutting down a golf course not a popular decision because it was making money. But there was one city council here in Portland that was basically suggesting that we shut down Eastmoreland and turn it into housing. But what I wondered when I saw that, I mean, obviously some people were very like, yes, I hate golf and I want to shut this place down and screw it.
That guy needs to be murdered.
It's
He probably would be if that actually came to be. Like, people are crazy out here with golf, especially for Eastmo.
So,
like Eastmo Royals, I would not want to play with those guys.
And then of course golfers were like, oh my God, this is a terrible idea. This is so stupid. And I really wonder what that counselor's base is, right? What is her constituency? What is her understanding? Because I get the impression that she's not a golfer. And I really wonder, when you are a politician in a perfect world, you're supposed to be hearing from your constituency and what it's like. And I wonder what side she was hearing on the pro golf side, on the pro Eastmoreland side. And what I worry about is if we are riding this COVID wave and this keeps going and people hang on, but who knows what this trail is, right? We've all read the stats about what was happening in the golf industry, and we think that's probably not going to go away, probably because this thing is still here and people still want to be outside. So that's being cooped up inside for 2 years and only being able to golf. I think it's going to continue. Like, I still want to keep golfing because it's something to do outside, and I was still inside for too long. So I think we still have a wave here to ride. We're still in the crest. But if that goes away and places like Eastmoreland aren't making money hand over fist, and that could come up again in 3 or 4 years, tear it down, put up apartment buildings, how do we give that person who wants to do that and lead that charge, a real to show our voice. I think that really may need to be a real thing that we think about as people here in Portland, a place with a lot of municipal tracks that are staples, but also in other cities where people have the same thing who listen to this podcast. Maybe we need to form, nothing crazy, but just like, hey, we're the constituency. I want to give you my opinion on it. And we're not these old crusty idiots who are on these boards who are jerks and making it terrible and who wants to interact with this guy anyways, So that's probably putting them off further.
Yep.
Right.
No,
political action for golf. That's
let's get it going.
No, I think we hit that nail on the head for sure with that. So one thing before we end today, I want to ask you guys your favorite tracks in Greater Portland area. So that what I consider Greater Portland area is within a 60-mile radius. So that could be almost to Mount Hood, down to Salem, and just a little bit outside into Washington. I consider that kind of the entity of Portland golf. And then your favorite track anywhere you've played. I'm going to start with you, Dane.
Oh, okay. All right. And this is really tough because you widened. How far away is Elk Ridge?
I literally was
No, that works. No, Elk
It's gonna
Ridge.
be like on the edge of the borderline.
So
Yeah.
I would say Elk Ridge because when you get that place on a good day, not only is it great golf, which it always is, it drains well, it plays well, all that. It's fun in the winter, but the views. It's like when you see those Instagram photos of videos of Austria or Switzerland and everything around you're in this bowl of mountains. That place is so stunningly beautiful. And I just love that place. The clubhouse is a trip. Everybody there is from the gorge in a very specific way. It's great. I love that. My runner up there would be Stone, obviously, but if I can reach over to Elk Ridge, I'm going to take Elk Ridge. My if I'm going to say that I've played, was it played in Oregon or played so far? Because
anywhere in the world.
See, I haven't played that many golf courses because I've really only started playing again in 2016. I say Rope Rider, which is in Suncadia, which is Central Washington. It's kind of a tie between Rope Rider and, man, I had an experience at Gearhart this summer that was just like, oh my God, it was so beautiful. But Rope Rider is the course that got me back into golf. It's the one where I was on a trip with a bunch of people, and the guys went out to play golf. The girls went out to do other stuff. You go to the lake or whatever. And I wasn't golfing at the time. I hadn't golfed in some time. I was like, well, obviously I'm going with the guys. I'll just ride in the cart. And 2 or 3 holes go by, and I go, hey, give me a club. Let me hit a ball. And it was gone from then. I'm losing all these guys' balls. I'm just doing whatever. I had a great time. Suncadia is just so beautiful. The houses there are huge and not gaudy or disgusting. The architecture is like my Central Washington is really one of my favorite places in the world. It got me back into golf. I have to give props to Rope Rider for being it. So yeah, those are my 2 choices.
I like that.
Those are good. I feel like I can't follow up by even giving you your top 2, Oregon, Greater Portland, like in even reverse order. Honestly, one of my, and I don't know why, if it was like, I went back to Langdon Farms after I got back from Bandon, and it's been, since I've been back from Bandon, it's been my favorite course to play. And I don't know if it's because it just reminds me a little bit of Bandon and just some of the layout and stuff, and it has a very like linksy style feel to it, or like you dropped this new term on me today, Chris, prairie style golf. Langdon Farms is really a sweet track, and I've fallen kind of in love with that course in some weird ways. But I think, to your point, Dane, like Elk Ridge, man, like the views out there are insane. The course is always in great condition. The second time I played it, and the last time I played it was with Big Chris I think that was the first time we ever played together. Yeah. And I had like 4 birdies in a row on the front 9. I was just like rolling. So like Elk Ridge like just went up way high on my list of like, I love this place. So I'm gonna have to say like Langdon, and Elk Ridge, and then Stone Creek is right there with those three for sure. Shout out to Wildwood. Wildwood is one of my favorite tracks as far as like fun, like Pacific Northwest style, like you said earlier, Chris, golf. Like it's different, but the conditions are insane, like crispy pure out there. Ryan, Aaron, like they do a phenomenal job running that place. The vibes are always good. Love Wildwood too, but as far as like my favorite tracks, yeah, definitely those two, and then Stone Creek is a close third. Okay, I've been to Bandon Dunes, so I don't feel like I could even talk about another golf course.
Hey, that's fine. Bandon is a good top.
There's a lot to choose from at Bandon. I've only played Bandon Dunes, Sheep Ranch, Old McDonald, and the Preserve. And out of those, like not even a question in my mind, my favorite track was Old Mac. It was just, somebody said time capsule earlier. I felt like I was transported to a different time when I walked out to Old Mac. Like there's just something so, I have goosebumps thinking about it. Like it's so raw. Like the green complexes were so just humongous and grand, and like there was just this magnificence of the course and the design and like the how many different shots that you're gonna hit throughout the course of your round, and the blind tee shot on number 2, and like the punch bowl on 18. Like it's just, there's just unlimited holes that just leave you like, you have to, like when you're walking off the green on pretty much every hole at Old Mac, I mean pretty much anywhere in Bandon, but especially Old Mac, you walk off any green and you're always turning back to look. Like, man, what was that? Like, what did I just go through? But it's like, it's spiritual and it's challenging, but it's like, it's also really rewarding because the greens are huge. So you can pretty much always hit the greens out there. But I don't know, man, like that I haven't played a ton of golf courses, to your point, Dane. Like I haven't played a ton of golf courses yet. I'm new to the game. But I've had the opportunity to go to Bandon, and Old McDonald at Bandon Dunes Golf Resort is hands down my favorite golf course I've ever played.
Chris, you're going to give us ours?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So my favorite track in Portland, and JP has a little bit of his own take on it since he played it for the first time the other day. But mine, since I've played it, I've only gotten to play it the one time. I don't know if I can put this at the best. So I'll say my second first. So my second favorite layout is Eastmoreland. Eastmoreland is just, I absolutely love it. A lot of people don't like the back nine at Eastmoreland. I think it's just a juxtaposition when you go from a wide open front to just a back nine that beats the living fucking shit out of you. Yeah. I just think there's
my foursome refuses to play it.
Yeah, and there's so
I don't
many,
care, but
yeah, there's so many people that hate it, but I think it's just such a great, two separate different courses in my mind out there. But I think Pumpkin Ridge Ghost is probably my favorite track in Portland. I love how deep it can go, how many different tee boxes there are available out there, the conditions, the Parkland style all the way out to what I call prairie style golf, and it's just gives you a little bit of everything out there. And the green complexes are very readable, large, accepting for approach shots. I really like that place. And then outside, oh man, that's a tough question for me because I'm not gonna lie, my number's getting up to like 600 courses that I've played in my life.
Insane.
To be honest, it might be, if I could pick a course that I could play every single day of my life, it might be Soul Park, where we're gonna hold MGA down in Ojai, California. It's just so good. The price point is fantastic. The conditions are good. Gil Hance went out there and redid every single green on the course and just made them Gil Hance. And it's $30 to fucking play this course at any time. $30 to play a Gilhance renovated golf course.
Wow.
It's $42 with a cart any time of the week. 19
7 days a week.
dude,
We're
19 bucks
moving
for
to Ohio,
Twilight.
boys.
Yeah.
Pack-
And
pack
then-
the trip.
And then you got Rustic Canyon, which is 30 miles south of that. And if you don't know Rustic Canyon, when we go down for MGA, I think you guys and Brian will have to go down early with me, and we'll have to get a round in on Wednesday or
Say
Thursday morning and play Rustic, because if you think Band and Dunes courses are cool, wait until you see fucking Rustic Canyon. This place looks like a moonscape. It's just
Wow.
it's in a canyon in Thousand Oaks, California. It's separated from anything else. Each 9 goes completely straight out on either side of the property and comes wrapping back in. It's absurd. There's a 520-yard par 5. I mean, you guys could listen to our episode we did on it, but 520-yard par 5 into the wind if you play in the afternoon, 20, 30-mile-an-hour winds in your face coming through the canyon, and I hit driver 3-wood. Yeah. It's just it's fun. It's just absurd.
Uh-huh.
And there's 90-yard par 3s that are just going to beat the shit out of you, and like it's a great course. So, I think when we go down for the MGA and you guys come down for that, we'll go down early and we'll play around at Rustic, and then you'll get 3-4 rounds in it sold for the invitational. So it'll be a good time.
Hell yeah.
Time for that.
You guys, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. Great convo. And again, give JP a follow. Suck My Par on Instagram. Please give Dane a follow. And also check out the website at matchstickgolf.com. Follow him on Instagram, matchstickgolf as well. Please check out his ball markers. They are some of the best in the biz, and I can't stress enough how much we appreciate you being one of our title sponsors for the podcast as well. It's just wonderful partnership, and can't wait to see what comes from here. So thank you guys. Appreciate you.
Thanks, Chris. Appreciate you, bro.